Wait, you're a Bears fan and you're not subscribed to my channel? Before this video starts, make sure to 1. Hit the subscribe button below to catch all Bears content right here on this podcast. 2. Hit the bell notification because you, my friend, are a diehard Bears fan. And 3. Like this video and tell all the Bears fans you know about the channel. Alright, that's better. Now that you're actually subscribed to the channel, make sure to bear down and enjoy this video.
Now this is a podcast all about Bears. You either cheering for this team or just pulling your hair. I like to take a minute, just sit right back and tell you how I became the #1 Bears fan. That boy is Benny Hunter. Cake on the mic, cake on the mic, cake on the mic, cake on the mic. People, this the intro. Sacramento, California, born and raised. And Antelope is where I spend most of my days. Talk bad about my team, you must be a clown. This is Keek on the mic, so you know you better bear down. Bear down.
Hey, what's going on, Bears fans? Thank you so much for joining me for another episode of Keek on the Mic, the podcast all about the Chicago Bears. Before I get this episode started, make sure you hit that subscribe button and the bell notification to catch all Bears content right here on the podcast. Make sure you follow me on all my social media platforms. And make sure you share this episode of Keek on the Mic with every single Bears fan that you know. So, Bears fans, the time has come. It's the Bears' final preseason showdown against the Tennessee Titans in Nashville this Saturday. And we finally get to see some last action from maybe some of the starters, some of the players that are trying to make this team. So it's going to be an action-packed filled game with a lot of implications for a lot of players. So that's what makes it interesting. So before this game, Matt Nagy already said that Andy Dalton will not be playing as he will be our week 1 starter. So that ends all of that. He'll be our week 1 starter. So that means Justin Fields will get his first start preseason-wise. He'll get his first start, and he will get to play with some of the starters, which I know for myself, I am super excited to see. This game also gives the opportunity for some borderline players, like I said, that are trying to make this football team. Rodney Adams, Jesse James, Riley Ridley. I can go on and on. There's going to be a lot of implication for a lot of these players that are trying to make this 53-man roster. And with the preseason being cut down from 4 to 3 games, this is their final opportunity to show the coaches of the Chicago Bears why they should be on this football team. So let's take a look at the 4 things that we should be watching for as the Bears take on the Tennessee Titans in their final preseason action. Number 1, it's obvious. Justin Fields will get his first start, and that is super exciting. All offseason long, Bears fans, including myself, have been screaming and begging to see Justin Fields with the ones, with the starters, and it hasn't been happening. He finally gets his opportunity to showcase his skills with the starters. No, I'm not sure if he'll be playing with a lot of the skill players, but he will be playing with the starting offensive line, which is huge because that means the offensive line is finally starting to get healthy, and they should be ready to go as soon as week 1 against a very good Los Angeles Rams defense. Fields is set to start. I'm super excited about that. And with Andy Dalton named the starter by Matt Nagy this week, that means this will be the last time we see Justin Fields play until eventually he takes Andy Dalton's job. Maybe as soon as week 2 or as late as week 8. I don't know when it's going to happen, but eventually he will take Andy Dalton's job as the starter of the Chicago Bears. This will also be a good opportunity for us Bears fans to see Justin Fields' development one last time in a live action game before he becomes the backup for Andy Dalton. Number 2, Jason Peters' debut at left tackle is something that I'm super excited for. Even though the Bears' offensive line is getting healthy, like I mentioned, there's still question marks at that left tackle position. And I assume, and like most Bears fans, we all assume that Jason Peters, if healthy, will be the starter at left tackle. But Matt Nagy made it very clear that that's not really the case. 5th-round rookie Larry Baroom will get the opportunity to compete for the left tackle job. One big question mark I do want to see with Jason Peters right here is the conditioning. Matt Nagy made it very clear that they're trying to get him up to speed. As you know, this week, it's been kind of a struggle for Jason Peters to get that conditioning back. You have to imagine that he came at the end skirts of training camp. So he'll do a couple of reps. He'll go on the sideline, take a knee. So you can definitely tell that his conditioning is not quite there. So can 5th-round rookie Larry Baroom in this final game truly make a push for the starting left tackle job? If Jason Peters comes in, the conditioning looks great. He can continue to get that conditioning up before week 1 and he stays healthy. Jason Peters will be the starting left tackle, with Larry Broom being a very good option for the left tackle backup. So I'm excited to see Jason Peters play this Saturday along with a hopefully very healthy offensive line and see where that takes us as we go into this very first game against the Los Angeles Rams. Number 3 is who stands out in the wide receiver competition in this final preseason game. As most of you guys know, Javon Wims was released this week, and that makes things kind of interesting because we all know that the locks at wide receiver are Allen Robinson, Darnell Mooney, Marquise Goodwin, and Damiere Byrd. Those are locks at wide receiver. That leaves 2 spots left, which I imagine the Bears will keep 6 receivers. So that leaves 2 spots available. And this final game is going to predict, obviously, who gets those final 2 spots. Competing for those final spots are Rodney Adams, Daz Newsome, Riley Ridley, and that newcomer that we just recently signed, Isaiah Coulter. And if it's my personal opinion, I think Rodney Adams deserves a spot on this team. I think Rodney Adams ends up making this football team, and then it's going to end up being between Daz Newsome and Riley Ridley. I know there's a lot of Bears fans that don't like Riley Ridley, and I'm starting to jump on that bandwagon because he just hasn't been producing. He seems like he's not really getting open. I'm not sure what's going on, but it's looking like Daz Newsome will make this team due to him being a rookie and his special team value. Maybe Riley Ridley makes it off waivers. Maybe he ends up on the practice squad. So I don't know what's going to happen, but I do know that I think the final 2 spots will be Rodney Adams and Daz Newsome. Everyone knows that Rodney Adams has put together an amazing training camp and an amazing preseason, and he has been working his ass off to make this football team, and I think he definitely deserves a roster spot. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens in this final preseason game. You know, they're going to all be playing super hard because they all know that this is their last opportunity to showcase what they can bring to the Chicago Bears football team and to the Chicago Bears offense. So I'm excited to see what happens. And last and foremost, this is almost just as important as the wide receiver battle is who's going to separate themselves this weekend for that cornerback 2 spot opposite of Jalen Johnson and that nickel spot. We're still looking for 2 starters in those positions. Obviously, as the Bears enter this final preseason game, this is going to be pivotal to see who stands apart. When you look at that outside corner spot, obviously you have Kendall Vildor and Artie Burns. Desmond Trufant was in the mix until he kind of got hurt, kind of had some personal issues, so he hasn't been practicing. So I think Desmond Trufant will make the team, and maybe he will push for that starter spot. But at the moment, I think right now we're looking at Kendall Vildor and Artie Burns. I think Vildor may be the favorite. He's been looking decent. Artie Burns also has been looking decent. So it's going to be who can step up in this final preseason game, who shows the most, and who offers the most. Because that is one of those situations where I think the Bears are struggling a little bit. The secondary is definitely a concern as we go into the regular season. For nickel, obviously, we have Marquis Christian. He's been putting up some awesome reps in preseason and in practice at that nickel spot. Would be a very good option for that starting nickel spot. And then, of course, you have Duke Shelley and newly drafted Bear Thomas Graham Jr. Duke Shelley seems to be the favorite right now. Awesome reps, has been having a really good camp. Maybe he will win the job. But then you look at Thomas Graham Jr. He's been also playing some pretty good football, had a pretty good camp and a pretty good preseason. And my question is, can Thomas Graham make a push for that nickel job? I'm looking forward to seeing this battle in this final preseason game along with the wide receiver battle. Those are the 2 big things I'm going to be watching in this game. But what are you guys looking for in this preseason game? It's the final game for the Bears before we enter the regular season, so that's super exciting. Let me know down below what you are looking forward to most in this final preseason showdown against the Tennessee Titans. But before I let you guys go, make sure you hit that subscribe button and the bell notification to catch all Bears content right here on the podcast. Make sure you follow all my social media platforms, and make sure you share this episode of Keek on the Mic with every single Bears fan that you know. But other than that, I'll catch you guys next time for an all-new Bears podcast right here on Keek on the Mic. Thanks, guys.
Riding with Country Bear. You ain't bout it, you ain't bout it, you ain't Keek on the mic. You ain't bout it, you ain't bout it, you ain't Keek on the mic. You can go and subscribe, cause I be on it right. You ain't bout it, you ain't bout it, you ain't Keek on the mic.